The old system created noise. This one creates transformation through silence.
For too long, justice has been misunderstood. Not punishment, but transformation is the standard. This is Elysium Central. Here, accountability meets compassion. Every step, every conversation moves us closer to who we can become. Hope resides here.
My beloved collective, there are moments in history when a society must pause, not to celebrate its progress, but to examine its foundations. To ask a question that is not comfortable, but necessary. Have we been solving the problem or simply managing it? For centuries, we have relied on a system we believed to be justice. We built institutions of confinement, massive, fortified structures of steel and concrete. We placed human beings inside them, and we told ourselves, this is correction. But let us look deeper. Let us look honestly. Imagine a young man, 19 years old, first offense. He enters a traditional facility. What does he encounter? Not reflection, not guidance, not transformation. He encounters noise. Constant noise. Voices shouting, doors slamming, tension in the air that never settles. He shares space with dozens, sometimes hundreds of others, each carrying their own trauma, their own survival instincts, their own unresolved chaos. And in that confined environment, what happens? He adapts. He learns how to appear strong, how to suppress vulnerability, how to navigate alliances, how to survive, not evolve. Within weeks, he is no longer who he was when he entered. And when he leaves, we expect him to return to society, right? That's it, right? No, but how? When everything about that system trained him to remain in defense, remain in reaction, remain in identity patterns that were never broken, only reinforced. Another story. Consider a woman, mid-30s, nonviolent offense. She enters the system and is placed in a shared unit. There is no silence, no space to think, no space to process. Every moment is filled with conversations, conflicts, emotional exchanges, external energies constantly influencing her state. She tries to reflect, but she cannot, because she is never alone. Even in the quiet moments, there is still presence, still noise, still influence. And so what happens? She learns to distract herself, to avoid, to endure. But she never reaches the one place necessary for change. Confrontation with self. Collective. The old system failed not because it lacked structure, but because it misunderstood human transformation. It believed that control of the body was enough, but it ignored the mind, the identity, the internal patterns that drive behavior. It created environments where ego was reinforced, survival instincts were rewarded, group identity replaced self-awareness. And then it asked, why do they return? Because the system never removed the root. It only contained the surface. Today, we've changed that. We introduce a system, not based on assumption, but on understanding. A system that recognizes a simple truth. Transformation requires stillness. A system known as Elysium Central. Now, understand this clearly. This is not a place of punishment. This is not even a place of traditional correction. This is a controlled environment of transformation. It is built on one defining principle: absolute solitude. No communal housing, no shared dining, no recreational gathering, no interaction between individuals. Each person enters their own containment space and remains there, not as isolation without purpose, but as solitude with structure. Let me ask you something. When was the last time a person truly sat with themselves? Not distracted, not entertained, not influenced, but simply present. For many, that moment never comes, because modern life, and certainly the old system, is built on constant distraction, you see. Elysium removes that. And when distraction is removed, something powerful happens. At first, there is discomfort. The mind races, thoughts surface, emotions that once buried begin to rise. But then, something shifts. Clarity begins. Imagine that same 19-year-old I mentioned earlier. But this time, he enters Elysium Central. He is placed in his own environment. It is quiet, not empty, but intentional. There is structure, a place to sleep, a place to write, a place to system to learn, a rhythm to the day. Meals arrive 3 times a day. Content arrives, guidance arrives, and there is no one else in the room. At first, he resists. He learns, he looks for distractions. There is none. He looks for validation. There is none. And slowly, he begins to turn inward. He begins to ask, why did I make those damn decisions? What patterns have I been repeating? What am I avoiding? And for the first time, he cannot escape those questions. And because he cannot escape them, he begins to answer them. The woman we spoke of earlier is now placed in Elysium. No noise, no constant interaction. She begins journaling, reflecting, processing emotions she never had time to face. Days become structured, weeks become intentional, and over time, she begins to understand herself in a way she never could before. Not because someone told her to change, but because she finally had the space to see clearly. Let us make it plain. Old system. Noise replaces clarity. Groups replace individuality. Survival replaces reflection. Identity remains unchanged. Elysium Central. Silence creates awareness. Solitude creates accountability. Structure creates stability. Clarity creates transformation. Some may ask, is this too strict? No, because what we are removing is not humanity. We are removing chaos, influence, distraction. And what we are giving is something far more powerful, the uninterrupted opportunity to change. When individuals leave Elysium Central, they do not leave hardened. They leave aware, grounded, disciplined, because they have done something rare. They have faced themselves without escape. And once the person truly understands themselves, they no longer need to be controlled. They begin to govern themselves. Collective. This is not just a facility. This is a declaration that we will no longer accept systems that fail quietly, that we will no longer confuse confinement with correction, that we will no longer build environments that sustain the very problems we claim to solve. We are establishing a new standard, a standard of clarity, discipline, transformation, a system that does not ask, how do we hold them, but instead asks, how do we change them, and answers by removing everything that prevents that change. Because in the end, transformation is not forced. It happens when a human being is finally given the space to see themselves clearly. And in that moment, they no longer run, they no longer hide, they no longer pretend. They change. This is Elysium Central. Thank you. Ashe.
The shift has begun. Alignment is no longer optional. To the 15th children.
There comes a moment when presence alone shifts the world.
Harmony, compassion, justice, not ideals, the foundation of what comes next.